Yeah, so it's been 3 years. We're excited to be back. We're gonna start with one of my favorite films. It's not even a crappy film. It's not even a shit. It's not even a shit we watched. It's great.
It might be exactly all of those things. Here it is. The Happening. A film by M. Night Shamalyan, written and directed by. So that's always a good sign.
It's the seal of quality.
I've seen this movie once in theaters and part of one when I was really, really drunk and then passed out. Riley here's seen it way too many times.
We're
gonna just we're gonna hop right in, I think.
Let's do it.
Let's get into it.
Let's make this happen.
He promised he wasn't gonna this time.
Cameras, yeah. Sorry, I'm just gonna.
So you're setting up your wide there.
Yeah. So let's just. Okay, so
The Happening.
The Happening. We just watched it. Now I wanted to point out that not only do I have this wonderful movie on Blu-ray, but I've also purchased it previously on DVD. So that just goes to show you how much I enjoy this giant piece of fuckery. I own it twice, and we saw it in theaters, so that's like a solid like 23 bucks.
And a lot of hours of your life watching people run away from the wind, frankly.
You haven't seen it in a long time.
No.
So what were your initial reactions again to...
I forgot a lot about what was so bad about this movie.
It's horrendous, but personally this is one of my favorite movies to watch. Honestly, it is so fucking funny.
A second, okay? Why can't anybody give me a goddamn second? I'd be scientific, douchebag. Identify the variables.
Since I know that it's so bad, and I remember that part, I remember talking about that outside the theater. Since I knew it was that bad, I knew I was going to have more fun watching it a second time because I could expect it to be as funny as it was, but it just is so bad.
Get the mustard?
So bad, but that's why it's funny.
Alright, well let's...
Okay.
Should we maybe get into... just build up to what M. Night has done before this.
Okay.
And it'll kind of put in perspective how he's just gradually declined.
Gradually?
Got to this. Well, kind of maybe plummeted off a cliff.
He jumped right off a cliff. Big pile of poo.
You can lose your mind a little bit going on Saturday from being an idiot to Sunday being a genius.
We all started off, like most people, with The Sixth Sense, which was a solid, good movie. It's still good.
It's pretty young when that came out. Scared the bejesus out of me.
Scared the bejesus out of me, absolutely. And then Unbreakable happened after a lot of people said that wasn't as good. I thought it's his masterpiece.
It's his best one.
Yeah,
I would agree.
And then Signs happened, and people bitched about the aliens dying from water and how stupid the twist endings are getting. But I still thought that was like, it's a suspenseful movie. It's a solid show.
I started to see things I didn't like in Signs.
Yeah.
You started, you almost like he was foreshadowing his career later on. Like, lamer and lamer things were happening at the end of his surprise twist endings that he was famous for.
If there's a choice involved, don't do it.
Then we got The Village.
Which was fucking disaster. It was so bad.
That one was pretty, that was like his first, like, laughable attempt at a movie.
Yeah.
Which must have been different for him.
Well, yeah, we all kind of thought it was just this flash in the pan accident because he made 3 really good shows, and then he made fucking, Ron Howard's daughter running around blind in a forest.
How dare you?
Cut me off, man!
How dare you?
But then what happened was, with Lady in the Water, like his ego started showing, and he cast himself as a writer that saves the world. Like that's his role in the movie, is that he's a writer, and the critics, there's actually a critic character in the movie who hates his writing, and the critics will all say, your writing sucks now, but someday it'll save the world.
Genius!
And The Happening happened, and then after this was Last Airbender and After Earth, and I don't know if you've seen those, but...
I've seen Last Airbender. Pretty intoxicated, so I don't remember all the fine deets. But I remember you showed it to me just as a, hey, remember how The Happening was hilarious?
Oh,
well, watch this!
It's also really funny, and now he's just, his movies are so bad, like they hit his name from, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah, I didn't know After Earth was a Shamalyan.
Yeah, like this is as bad as it got. However, something like After Earth and Lady in the Water, they're terrible, but I find them really boring. Whereas this one, I know you said you were kind of bored by it, but it's so hypnotically bad in every conceivable way that I find it just fucking hilarious.
I was bored by it, but I also thought we were only like half an hour in, and it was almost over. So like, at least it goes quick and painless. Not painless.
Not painless.
That's not the right word.
Wrong word.
Quick and extremely painful.
The toxin? The toxin is affecting them?
We start with the two girls.
Yep.
There's another bench. The one girl, for whatever reason, isn't affected yet, and everybody else is, including her friend who stabbed herself in the throat.
Right.
Hilarious shot in there of the one girl not reacting at all while her friend shoves.
True. That's a prime example of what should work, but didn't because he didn't shoot it right. And that's a weird thing because Shamalyan is a terrible writer now, but he's actually a good director. He can shoot things well, but in these scenes he didn't because, like you're saying, she's the only one that doesn't recognize, like she's the only one that's not affected yet. But that's because the audience needs someone to be them, so they can be confused along with them. So that makes sense. But they have her looking around going, why is that woman gnawing at herself? Is that blood?
It's weird. Those people look like they're clawing at themselves. Is that blood?
It's a bad starting off point for the movie because it's a horribly acted scene that he could have got right. He could have got them to do it again and got better takes out of the girls, but
It's called just using emotion.
Not that much emotion, Robert.
and that's how he started his movie. And I remember the first time we saw it in theaters, I was already laughing at that part
Oh, yeah, God, yeah. The whole theater was, though.
because
Like, the
it
whole
was
theater laughed the whole time.
it was so it wasn't like now that I know what's happening. Now that I know what's happening in this movie, I think it's funnier. Well, I do, but it was funny the first time.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun. It was very bad and funny the first time. So then we move on. We see stuff is going on like this.
Everyone's
throughout-
killing themselves. In
throughout Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, they say that
They say that
on a newspaper.
immediately after they say it just started happening in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it starts that morning, but he already has a newspaper nicely folded, as you mentioned, saying Philadelphia. Which again, it's like, how do you not
How
know?
fast do you print that paper?
I honestly don't know.
Everyone's killing themselves elaborate ways, and that's when we meet the main characters and we really realize how shitty this movie's gonna be. Because like the first thing we see of Mark Wahlberg is the most painfully awkward teaching scene ever filmed, where he just stands there pretending to be cool and making fun of the handsome kids in class. And just,
It's minuscule, buddy, okay? Don't worry about it. You're gonna be a heartthrob your whole life. I was just messing with you.
that's his style in the whole movie, is asking questions. Just, hey, do you know about the bees that are dying in South Africa?
Look, I don't know if you guys have heard about this article in the New York Times about honeybees vanishing.
He is the,
What's going on with that?
he is the permanent like crease from frowning his eyebrows.
I can't see it because your hair's too fucking shaggy, but I know what you're talking about. So that's his acting style, and you just showed me on YouTube. We just saw an interview with Shamalyan. Oh, there's such a wide range of emotions with Mark Wahlberg.
And you really pushed Mark Wahlberg, his emotional limits in this movie.
One of the things I told him is that you can't go to that steely kind of lockjawed, tough guy place. That's not an option for this guy. He doesn't know how to do that.
There's never been less range of any emotion in the
There
history
was
of cinema.
zero emotion.
This is all of his emotion. This is it.
Sometimes he even asks questions when they're not a question,
Maybe that's not a good idea?
I told her just for a minute.
which I do believe is Shyamalan's fault. Like he told Mark Wahlberg's not a bad actor. He's been a good thing.
He's
done good work.
He's
before.
done good work.
He's
before,
never
yes.
done this before
That is true.
because he usually gets. He's typecast as his one character.
Yeah.
That's who he should play. And
Yeah.
so he was really taken out of his comfort zone by Shyamalan, being asked to play the wrong kind of character. Because this movie could have used a normal Marky Mark character.
Yeah. That's
It
probably
could have used like
A
badass
stoic
Marky,
hero
who,
kind of thing.
who like backhands his girlfriend. Don't you talk up to me, Janine. So we just introduced Marky Mark. We talked about him.
Yeah, and then
Now
Zoe
we can
Deschanel.
move on. So
Her
plan in place for this type of
she has the prettiest eyes in the world.
yeah.
Not well represented, but I appreciate.
How about this?
Do you have to go to the washroom?
I almost pooped a little. But that is her whole acting to me. I like Zoe Deschanel. And I like it when she's not playing the same quirky role all the time, which is almost never. But she's so bad in this. And again, you have to blame Shamalyan because she's not a bad actress. Yeah. She's been in good roles, she's done good performances, and she's fucking just embarrassing in this film.
We've had that conversation before. Like, there's like good actors in this movie, and they all just happen to be bad at the same time. you kind of know where to point the finger.
Yeah.
It's
the writer, director, producer.
Oh, did he do all of them?
Yeah.
Is that maybe where the fucking problem is?
Genius!
So we go from there. We find an awkward scene with Zoe Deschanel. Kind of hints that she has a on-the-side lover. Turns out they just shared dessert one time.
That dessert.
Okay.
That dessert.
This is when everything starts happening. Sorry. John Leguizamo gets introduced. He's another teacher. He's a math teacher.
That's his only character trait, is that he's a math teacher.
He has a daughter and a wife. We meet the daughter. They all are trying to get out of town because everybody's starting to die from this freaking unknown craziness that's happening.
Which everyone
here.
keeps like showing bits of on their cell phones, even when it's part of a conversation that's not applicable. Like Mark Wahlberg is trying to make this little girl laugh at the dinner table at one point, and this old lady's just like, "Look at this!" and shows this dude getting his arms ripped off by a
Look at
lion.
this video of a lion ripping a guy's face off.
Look at this cartoon lion. So they all go on a train. The train stops for no reason, and then Mark Wahlberg comes out and is like,
Hey, what do you mean? Where are we?
Filbert, Pennsylvania.
Filbert? Does anybody know where that is? Why are you giving me one useless piece of information at a time? What's going on?
So then they just say, well, we lost all contact with people, so we're not driving anymore, which doesn't make sense. They're at the diner, and then I guess everyone just suddenly, even though there was 100 people dropped off a train, suddenly they all have cars, because they all just fucking take off in dozens and dozens of cars. Except for those two, so Leguizamo...
Because they didn't bring their car on the train.
Well...
Like idiots.
Leguizamo's gotta leave his kid with them for retarded reasons. Leguizamo?
It sounded like a
Leguizamo.
sneeze. I want to call him Leguizamo now. Sounds like a new kind of pasta.
Damn it. John. John L. leaves his kid with them.
And he goes and dies.
He goes and dies. Hilarious. It shouldn't be. It sounds terrible, but it's true. It's funny. It's so really fucking funny. And are we at the chase scene yet?
We're pretty much there.
Oh.
We're like 90% through the movie because that's all that happens. So they keep just going from place to place.
Yeah.
Not really doing anything. Mark Wahlberg asks a lot of questions.
What? No.
Everybody leaves from the train station in their cars that they brought, obviously, on the train.
And
then we meet the hot dog guy. He is the worst casting choice.
I was just gonna say the best casting.
It depends if you look at it as a comedy or not.
Which I do.
I'm gonna come at this from a standpoint of he should have tried to make it what he wanted to make it. Which
So
was
not
a serious, kind of scary movie.
Okay, but for that character, he was the comic relief.
He was.
That's why the hot dog scene happened.
I know. It just.
He was
I
trying
guess
to
it's
be
not
funny.
why. It was so awkward because he thought he had scared us enough by that point that he needed comic relief.
Exactly.
But we had already been laughing for so long, so we watched this guy talk about hot dogs, and then you're just like, what the hell just happened to me?
You know, hot dogs get a bad rap. They got a cool shape. They got protein. You like hot dogs, right?
I can't describe enough to people who have never seen this movie the reaction that scene got in the theater. Because he just came out of nowhere and says, I like hot dogs. They get a bad rep. They have a great shape and they're delicious. And the whole theater just dead silence for 2 seconds. They couldn't believe what they just heard, and then just rolls of laughter. Just we couldn't stop. I was crying laughing.
I think that's a really useful thing.
It was one of the most like united theaters I've ever been in. We were all just like
pure hatred. Yes.
We were all just like together laughing at this man and his career just going down the tube,
just imploding in front of our eyes.
Because everybody in there was like, I'm never going to another Shamalyan movie in theaters again.
And never changing my accent as the author, as the narrator. It scares you because you're like, he's not telling us anything. He's not telling us when to be safe or when to feel scared.
So again, an example of bad comedy not being funny, but everything else is funny. And actually the bad comedy is so awkward and bad that it does become funny, and I wind up laughing. Like the epic scene where he talks to the plastic plant.
We're just here to use the bathroom. And then we're just gonna leave. I hope that's okay.
Which I think will go down in film history as just like one of the silliest things ever filmed.
Talking to a plastic plant.
I almost think that scene by itself, if it was surrounded by like in the rest of the movie, if it was what it was intended to be, that scene wouldn't have been so bad, but it's what comes before and after the whole time.
Cheese and crackers.
You were just talking about context. And that's such a big thing with that happening because there are a lot of individual scenes that would work if they were in a good movie. Like the shot in the beginning when all the workers start jumping off the bridge. That shot is a beautiful shot. I think that's a great shot. But then you cut to Wimpy Face and you just like, and it ruins everything. And like it was the old lady in the end when she's walking around banging her head to kill herself. A really good shot, out of context. Within context, you're still fucking laughing because it's so stupid with the rest of the movie.
Well,
like, it's just, he's not untalented. It's just like Nickelback. It's like you know there's talent in there somewhere, you just never see it.
That just again shows the problem of not having any accountability.
Yeah.
He was the head guy on this movie. Nobody's gonna argue with him.
In every category.
Yeah, no, like he oversaw literally everything. He didn't have to answer to anybody.
No.
And it was just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Movies need that collaboration where there is an asshole producer telling a director, no, don't film the main character having sex with an elephant. It's Superman. Don't show that.
Sometimes even if you have a good idea, you need like a jerk to kind of tell you,
yeah,
that's not actually a good idea because it sifts out the ones when you actually have a bad idea and you think it's good, and then you actually think about it and you're like, well, yeah, that's fucking dumb.
We don't know how plants attain these abilities. They just evolve very rapidly.
Which now finally brings us to the chase.
Now we're at the chase. Describe this one.
Well, imagine you're in a field. Beautiful meadow. Mark Wahlberg leading the way. Actually, he's not. I think a couple of kids are leading the way. And then you see it. And you hear it first. They all turn. And they look. And then it's scary. And you're like, my God, what are they going to see? It's going to be so scary, right? Because we're watching a scary movie.
Yeah.
And then we cut and we see this shot of these beautiful trees. These oak trees.
Yeah.
And the leaves are just look lovely.
Gently sashaying.
And then we cut back to them. We better run! And they just take off.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're running away from the wind in a big field. So there's some problems with that. So we see the wind start following them. The grass is kind of blowing over really hard, but if you look really carefully in front of them, the kind of wind's just blowing everywhere, so they're not really outrunning anything.
No.
They're kind of just mixed up in the wind. So basically we get the worst chase scene ever because they're running away from the wind, and then they can't run away from the wind, obviously. Even M. Night realizes this, so he has them all stop in the middle of the field, and then the wind just rushes past it, but nothing happens.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
And so then we're confused.
Nothing happens?
Yep.
Could this really be happening?
Well, maybe. It's because we're in a smaller group. Like that group had like 3 more people than we did, and I think since we're a smaller group, that we have to. That must be the reason.
Yep. We have to split up more. That's never been an issue with horror movies.
Genius!
No, and that you can almost see while he was writing it, that he's writing this great chase scene where they're running away from the wind, and then halfway through he realizes, oh, fuck, they can't outrun the wind forever. So the wind has to catch up with them, but then it's like, okay, well, you know what, whatever, I'll just not make a kill him this time. And again, that's a problem with the whole movie. It's like, he writes himself into a corner, but instead of finding a clever way of getting out of that corner, he just poops in the corner and then keeps on painting.
Would everyone just be quiet?
So we go from there. We've got Mark Wahlberg, Zooey Deschanel, John Leguizamo's daughter,
and the two
and then
Expendables.
the two boys that showed up in the middle of the group out of nowhere. So
one has long hair and one has short hair. That's how I can tell the two apart. Also, fun little fact: the little girl in Signs, that's her brother. Not the black one.
Open the door, bitch!
So we're almost to the end of the movie, surprisingly. I know. Not
Just
much
two
has
more
happened,
stops.
right?
It's a very episodic film. It's
So,
just they run into something.
They
run
get
into
to a house where crazy Southern people without Southern accents, but they talk like they're Southern.
In Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Show your faces!
Let the gas in.
No!
Right, so she shoots the shit out of the kid, and then sneaks around, shoots the shit out of the other kid, and they just kind of wait around. I think that's when we're talking about because like the scene is built up properly in terms of suspense.
Yeah.
Like he knows how to shoot a suspense scene. He always has. So you know you build it up with the creaking swing, which is cliche, but it doesn't fucking matter, and you have like them pounding the doors every now and then. You see a shadowy figure. It works. It builds up. But then what does it build up to? He just shoots kids and Mark goes, "No!" And it's funny, and it just becomes accidentally hilarious.
It's because normally when you build something up, even if you have like a fake stinger every once in a while, which he doesn't in this part, but you'll have the part where the real stinger comes and the bad guy jumps out, but the bad guy in this case is the wind.
Right.
Which isn't scary.
So in a horror movie,
also
like,
you can't see it jumping up behind people, you would just have to see their hair blow. And that would
not
just be
scary.
funny.
And then it's funny. So he wrote himself in this corner, the shitty idea of the wind being the villain, and halfway through he realized, oh shit, I need more. So he invents this random guy with a shotgun, a random scary old lady. Because he ran out. He ran out of stuff to do with the fucking wind, because it's just the wind.
I firmly believe he finished writing the movie without that scene, and was like, God,
oh shit, it's not scary.
I'm on page 67, and he threw another scene in there.
I buy that. I think you're right. It just kind of sticks out.
Going to that house did nothing.
No.
Those characters, those two kids who got shot were in the movie for about not even 5 minutes.
We don't even know their names. We never learn their names. They just
until Mark Wahlberg screams the names when they die.
Which I never heard.
So they exist just to be eliminated 5 minutes later. So that's what makes me feel like he wanted a filler scene.
Could be. And that's standard of horror films. There's always going to be the characters that want to get picked up, but usually they're not introduced 5 minutes before dying.
Exactly.
Like it should have just been like John Leguizamo stayed with them the whole time.
Yeah,
and
they should have met those guys back at the train.
Yeah, with Hot Dog Man.
Talking about how to fix this movie, but like,
God,
there's no way.
I didn't even have a cough.
So they get to the second house, and it's my favorite character, my favorite line of dialogue, not just in this movie. I mean it ever. In any film.
High standard.
So they meet the old lady, who then Mark Wahlberg eyes her lemon drink.
Like literally, he eyes it.
He does. He looks at it, and then she says, "Why you eyed my lemon drink?"
Why you eyeing my lemon drink?
And it's the funniest thing I've ever heard, and it's hard to explain. Hard to explain to people who haven't seen the movie, but we've been sitting here for an hour and 10 minutes and watching a morbidly bad horror movie fail in every way to scare us. Like nothing about it is remotely even scary. It's just been a total Titanic level disaster for an hour and 10 minutes. And then just old ladies is rocking on a porch and just says,
"Why you eyeing my lemon drink?"
And it's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. I want a t-shirt that says it. It's so funny.
Genius!
But then things start to get like a little creepy in this house. This old lady actually does a pretty good job being creepy. And you're like, man, alright, halfway through the movie and things are getting a little bit creepy. And then you're like,
halfway
through? No, not halfway through.
No.
There's only about 5 minutes left.
Yeah. And that's why it's weird. She ruins the movie even more by actually being effective. She's the only remotely creepy thing in the whole film. Like when she's like listening to them at night.
Planning on stealing something?
No, ma'am, we're not.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
When he's wandering through the house and sees a creepy doll and starts yelling at him.
You trying to steal my things?
No, Mrs. Jones, I actually wanted to talk with you.
You all are gonna leave right now!
Ma'am.
Those are actually creepy scenes. Those are like old Shamalyan creepy scenes because she does a good job, but it's like she transported from another movie and didn't realize. It's almost like when she got the script, she only read her role.
Yeah.
She only read those 6 scenes or 6 pages and thought, this is gonna be scary. So she actually does a good job.
I was actually surprised that Shamalyan let her do a good job. Because he gave the other actors specific directions
to not do.
Not that much emotion, Robert.
Those are effective scenes, it's just that by that point, the whole movie's been so funny that anything that's now scary makes the movie even worse than it already was, because it throws everything out of whack. It's just ridiculous.
Cut. Cut. For God's sakes, cut.
They've been running away from the deadly wind. They pretty much have accepted, like, they gotta stay inside or we'll die.
Yeah.
And so Mark Wahlberg's looking desperately for Zoe Deschanel and this little girl, and they have ventured outdoors to go check out this weird little shed across the property, but for no reason at all. Like, why would you go outside? They're not scared. And you know why they're not scared is because it's the wind. All of a sudden, what happens, Riley? Nothing. It's over.
Nothing happens.
It's over. All of a sudden the plants are like, you know what? Y'all ain't so bad.
So it's already happened once before that they step out and then the wind just decides not to kill them anymore. So do it again, and the scene is built up to be full of pathos and emotion. They found on the side, I love you so much that I'd rather die holding hands with you and looking forlornly into your big blue dopey eyes. But so they build up to it, the music swells, it's all beautiful and pretty, and then again, it just nothing happens. The wind decides not to kill anyone. So it's like, why bother pretending this was an emotional moment if you're just gonna say at the end, the movie fucking ends finally.
We find out they are gonna have a baby. It's 3 months later. Presumably, like, millions and millions of people have died.
It had to have been a lot.
And everybody's just like going on about their business pretty well.
There's still school bus driver.
I wouldn't go to school.
So the movie ends.
That's the happening.
And that's the happening. So now we're at the stage where it's like, okay, is this movie a failure because it was a horror movie that was not remotely scary? Or is it a success because it's accidentally a very funny comedy?
See, that's a good question because you're on the one side completely. Yeah, I'm on the other side. So I feel like from your point of view, it's almost like you would have to say it's a success. You've seen it, what, 5 times?
Almost 10 now.
You've seen the movie
I've
almost
owned it many
10
times.
You've bought 2 different versions of it.
Yes.
He got you. Maybe not the way he intended.
Yeah.
But he got you.
20 years from now, I'll get a good review. We'll sit here together and I'll be like, I got a good review!
Like, woohoo! High five!
I'm on the other side. I've seen it twice. I think it's funny to watch, but it's painfully so. I don't enjoy putting myself through that, you know? Like, yeah, it's not the funnest thing I can do on my free weeknights. But
that's fair. That's
so
fair.
I would say, to answer your question, no. I don't think it can be a success because I think you have to judge it off of what it was trying to be.
Which is a horror movie.
It was trying to be a horror movie,
Yep.
and it failed miserably.
Yeah. Not scary anyway.
You can't change your mind about what you want it to be after you see it. It's cheap.
Genius!
Yeah, okay, so The Happening is a failure as a horror movie, as a dramatic movie, as a even just remotely competent piece of filmmaking. But I laugh more in this than any other actual comedy. So for me, it's like, yeah, it's terrible. It's one of the worst movies ever made. But the entertainment value is that it makes me giggle till I cry.
It's true that the comedy from it comes from it failing so badly. But even in that, you're still admitting that it's a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're laughing at the guy in a wheelchair who fell downstairs.
Get out of here! He's gonna shoot you! Get out of here!
It is a failure, it is a disaster. I would have to give it like 1 star in any way or shape or form. But would I tell people not to?
Still recommend.
I still recommend it. I've forced people to sit down and watch it. My sister, her husband, my cousin, all of them. I say no. You have to watch The Happening because it's hypnotic. It's like you need to see this, not just the bottom of the barrel, but like saying this is the bottom of the barrel is insulting to barrels. It's below the bottom of the barrel. I think I just offended the whole barrel community. I'm racist against barrels for comparing this to a barrel. There's a lot of bad movies out there that are just boring and painful and brutal. This one is just made with pure sincerity. He thought he was making a masterpiece, and he made the shittiest thing. I love it.
Okay, and I don't.
Are you joking?
For lovers of bad movies, it's hard to get badder and funnier than that. But it is a piece of shit.
Hard to disagree with that.
True. So, yeah, that's it for the shit we watch this week, month, year. And that was a good happening.
I'm gonna punch you right in your dick.